about backyard barbecue. Let's just go around the screen real quick. We'll start with Rusty. Rusty, go ahead and give him your name and info.
I am Rusty Monson. I'm in the co-host of the Pitmasters podcast, still trying to work on my ponying skills.
Yeah, there you go. You're almost there.
Also, yeah, head cook of the Salt City Barbecue and pitmaster at Bend Brisket. That's what I do.
Alrighty, go ahead, Matt.
All right, I'm Matt Sierra. I'm just a backyard barbecue guy that was asked to join today to help you guys out, talk a little bit of barbecue.
Yeah.
I'm Rob Ashby, and I am head cook of my own backyard also.
Heck yeah.
Sweet. So what we're doing today is we're going to be talking a little bit about backyard barbecue with just the average backyard person. Matt, he just likes to cook a lot and post a lot. Same with Rob. They're going to have some questions for us that they are maybe having some challenges throughout their cooks, and maybe we can help them through there. And then we're also going to try to convince both of these guys to maybe jump into the competition scene. What do you think, Rusty?
Yeah, that's what I'm always trying to do.
All righty. Go ahead. Let's start it off. Russ, do you have any questions or any comments before we get rolling?
Oh, man, I'm good. Just thanks for coming on, guys. It's awesome.
Yeah.
I play poker with Matt. Never met him before. I've known about Rob. So it's cool to see you guys face to face. And thanks so much for hanging out with us.
Yeah, Matt and we met, 10 years ago on the foosball circuit?
At least I want to say it was 2000, 2001, maybe.
Yeah, we won we won a tournament together, I do believe.
Back in the day, maybe down at the Black Bull, West Valley.
Yeah. Yeah. So, and then Rob, I met you in person last year at the chili cook-off where Rusty did not show up. So I'm going to give him the hardest time about that. So.
Yeah, Rusty got scared. Rusty didn't compete, and I got scared and didn't compete. So I decided to sign up as a judge. So that was easier than trying it.
I'm a perfectionist. Here's the problem with me, and this is a problem. If it's not perfect, I don't want to do it, and it's true. It's like, I hate that, but it's true. So I was missing one ingredient. I could have been fine, and 99% of people out there would have went, and those people have better lives than I have. It's true, because they're able to put themselves in better situations. But for me, if I'm missing just the one thing that I think is not going to help, then I'm just like, I got all panicky and didn't go. Because I love chili. It's the funniest thing. It's my favorite food. One of them anyway. Top 3, man. Top 5 tops. And so I was super excited about it. But I think that's also why I got in my head, is because when it wasn't right, I was like, I can't go up there and lose, no way, not chili. No, I couldn't do it. And I just kept on eating at me. And I was like, you know what? I can't get this ingredient in time. I think it's crucial. I'm just not going to go. And I could have just went and hung out, but I was just terrible.
It was cold that day.
From it. I'm going to go in anyway next time. So,
Wait, do you have like a set recipe for chili? Because when I make chili, it's like, I want to put this in and put this in and put this in. Oh, it doesn't taste right. I'll add this. Like I put chocolate in chili before.
Yeah, that sounds awesome. And I do. I how I usually work is I'll take a recipe that I like. I'll do a couple recipes and I'll just do it exactly the way it says, and then over time I will just add to it, take away, and it takes a minute, but after a while I literally will it'll be my own. It's like I can take a recipe and then work it, and then it doesn't even look almost recognizable after that. That's how I usually work, because just winging it, 2 things. If I'm not disciplined enough to write everything down and recap and redo, then I'm not going to remember how I did it, and it's going to be different every time. And I can't, I want really, really good food. So I want to make building blocks to get to the best point. So if I'm not writing it down and I'm not moving it forward, and it's just over here, left, right, taste, it's different this day, that's really frustrating to me. So I have to build it to where I want it and hold it there. And I'll always play with things. I mean, long story short, being a bachelor for long as I am the best spaghetti maker there has ever been, because I literally made spaghetti every night of my life for 25 years. And now I make my own from the freaking sausage, from the pasta, from the sauce, all of it's my own. I've had it so dialed in that it's my best dish, and so that's how I usually work it. So I was on the building block part of the chili, and when I had that missing ingredient, it wasn't good enough for me. So I just went, I can't go. So I didn't. Sorry, guys. Sorry.
And are we gonna share what that ingredient is, or that's top secret?
I can tell you, but I don't know how to pronounce it. Soy Sangoya.
It's a Mexican spice.
I don't even know what that is.
An MSG.
Never heard of it.
Exactly. And he can just anywhere. So,
but Rob, so a little bit of thing that is if you ever make the plunge into like competition side of stuff, we are always making sure we make the exact same product every single time. So that's one of the biggest things that we try to hone in on, and we will make adjustments. But the funny thing is, our adjustments are at home, not at a competition. So
I recently just did my first chili on the smoker, the Traeger, and it turned out very nice.
Nice. So let's jump into some backyard stuff. So Matt, you've been cooking a lot lately. It seems like you increased your cooking in maybe the last year, maybe 2 years. I've just seen you starting to get more involved in a lot of the Facebook community, and a lot more. I see you popping up on a lot more groups and stuff throughout Facebook. So you seem to be taking it a little bit more serious than the average neighbor that you got in your neighborhood.
Yeah, well, I got a lot of support from my wife, Susie, and she loves barbecue. It's her favorite thing. So she's very behind it. Just recently, she actually purchased some of that. Somebody was selling bison on the online, and she purchased like $100 worth of some steaks, which is not that much, by the way.
Wow.
And they turned out very, very good as well. I mean, who would have thought?
Right. And then what about you, Rob? Man, you've been active for a long time. You've cooked a lot. You've used a lot of grills probably in the last 3 or 4 years or so. Tell us a little bit about your backyard experiences.
So I went back. It was funny watching your last week or 2 weeks ago with Todd Bullock. His story was kind of mine. Like I watched all the BBQ Pitmasters episodes and thought that was awesome. And I started with a UDS, like literally from the classifieds. I bought a used ugly drum smoker that someone had built and just wanted to figure it out. So I went to all the websites and found the Facebook communities and just started learning about it. And I did all kinds of stuff on that forever. And then I was the guy who wasn't ever going to use a pellet smoker because it's not the way. But when I finally got one, I'll never go back. It's so convenient to just fire that up and be cooking in 10 or 15 minutes. And so whatever you can cook in an oven or on your stovetop, or I'll just fire it up and go.
Right. Rusty will argue that startup time all day long. So
I bet you I could have mine rolling in 15 minutes.
No, what are you talking about? With
my pellet
startup
smoker.
time. Yeah, the startup time.
Yeah. As opposed to what though?
As opposed to like
your charcoal. Yeah.
Getting charcoal going.
I'm like, well, yeah, no, I don't know. Mine start fast, man.
Yeah.
It's pretty quick. I don't really notice because usually what I do is when I'm going outside. So my very first step, and this is when I learned in school, is like you just want to get your pans really, really hot, So I have this habit of starting my cooker right away. So right when I go to cook. So for me, I don't really notice an uptime. So because what I'll do is I'll go out and I'll turn my pellet smoker on, right? And then, or I'll go turn my Salt City drum on. I'll get it fired up, and for me, it's the same amount of time, is all. Because I just go back and that's when I start my prep, and if I need to, and so it's for me, it's like kind of spades, just because I just that time. I'm not in a hurry, is what I'm trying to say. So that's right. My thing. I love pellet grills, though. I mean, I know I don't want everyone to think that I don't. I love Toyota, and I use it all the time. But I also just cannot escape the flavor of that drum, man. It's just some things you just have to use a drum for. Just is what it is.
Right. There is a difference in taste for sure.
But yeah, I'm very basically trying to just prep. I mean, my cooker will go on a long time unless I'm, like if I'm just say I'm cooking a rib, right? That's going to take me maybe 3 hours on a drum. So I have a lot of time to get that thing fired up and hold it and get the thing. And plus, I really like to get that white smoke minimized as much as I can. So I'm putting my wood on and letting that burn clean before I put my meat on it. So I mean, that's my thing. So I don't really notice. I'm never in a oh crap, get my pellet grill going, situation. I guess.
Right. Nice. So let's hit a little bit about what you guys are cooking and
rabbit.
Yeah, let's talk about how you're cooking and then how maybe like YouTube has influenced a little bit about your cooking styles. I'm pretty sure like most of us, we used to just start off with salt and pepper on a steak, but now it's a completely next level, just even in the backyard for steaks. So Matt, start us off on what
back to salt.
Yeah, what you're progressing into and what you're deciding to cook.
I've just recently started to try to do, the bigger, better things like, like for the Super Bowl, we did a Wagyu brisket and it was good. It was the first one I've actually done right. That's for sure. My first go at a brisket was very tough, got impatient and just didn't give it enough time because, it takes a lot of time for a brisket to get it right, I guess. And I didn't have a meat thermometer, which I now have the thermopop that I use religiously, and that thing kicks butt, by the way.
Yes, that's huge.
Yeah, that was a definite game changer to not, overcook everything. That's what I've realized. Can't go without it now, I think.
No, once you go back, and it's funny because I used to work in the restaurant business, and I would use these like kind of crappy thermometers, and I didn't realize. I was like, thermometer. And then someone put a freaking one of these ThermoWorks in my hands, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I'll never go back. I can't hold one now. I'm like, I just touch it. I'm like, this will break if I put it in anything. It's just such a little baby. So yeah, ThermoWorks the best.
Yeah, before I had a big old, it was a Cuisinart one that was giant, and it wouldn't even go that low to hit a rare. So it was rare, medium, or even medium. It's like everything was done.
Just done.
Jerky.
Let me guess. I bet even with you're doing some chicken, you had the fork and knife and you're cutting in the middle just to make sure that it's cooked all the way through.
Yep, definitely.
Yeah, that is the worst. Yeah. What about you, Rob, man?
I'm a thermopop guy too. I mean, as soon as you take it to cooking to temp till instead of I think this is done, it's a game changer. I mean, maybe this throws my dad under the bus, but growing up, he was a backyard guy. We had steaks, and he cooked them into basically what I would call jerky now. But as far as like stuff I use, like the basics are, I take Winco is your friend, by the way. The Winco bulk spice section, I go there and just load up on stuff. You can make your own rubs, but the basics: salt, pepper, onion powder, garlic powder, and then build around that.
Right. So what are you deciding to cook? Like Matt said, he took the plunge in and was working on some brisket. When did you decide to start taking your hot dogs and hamburgers to the next level? Should say.
Oh, I started that like right away when I got my UDS, like 10 or 15 years ago, probably closer to 15 years. I ruined a couple briskets. That's been my only fail. Like I've cooked everything, but I've had some epic briskets and I've ruined a couple briskets. But I just all these, online communities, forums and Facebook pages where everybody's sharing their cooks, pictures of them. It's like, hey, I should cook that. Maybe I can do it better, or I can take a picture of it and make it better. Well, it tastes better. So it's kind of a motivator to get in these groups and just see what other people are doing. And I'll see something and then I might watch, 2 or 3 YouTube videos of people, how you do this. And then I'll make my way and just try it.
Nice. Sorry, I had something there in my throat. But when it comes to ruining briskets, I actually ruined one of my very first competition briskets, and I overcooked it. Literally, the fire got to like 375. About 4 hours of that, I passed out at a comp, and I literally had jerky. So ruining a brisket will happen. It's just an expensive mistake. Rusty and we cooked a brisket the other day. It wasn't the best. It just depends on the cut of meat and the quality of meat, I should say.
Yeah.
What do you think, Rusty?
It is, because you have so many different options. You have your choice, your select, your USDA, and then on the flip side, you have your Angus, certified Angus's, which is a different grading, which is basically choice and up to prime. And you have your Wagyu's, which is graded differently. And then you throw grass-fed in the middle of all that, right? And so it's like when you cook something, sometimes, I like to cook Wagyu brisket hot and fast because it can handle it and go to 217 if I need it. If I'm doing a choice, I'm going to do low and slow. I'm going to wrap early. I also don't care too much about bark. I know people just like, bark, what's the bark look like? I'm like, I don't care. I just want a good damn brisket, a juicy brisket that tastes good. And bark definitely helps that. But there's a point where I just will wrap just to get juiciness. The primes, I'll let go low and slow. I won't even wrap them most of the time. What I'm trying to say is like every animal lives a different life, whether it's grain fed its whole life or it's just straight grass fed. Most times what they'll do is they'll grass feed a grass fed beef. It's still grain fed. It eats a lot of grass, and then towards the end, what they'll do is they'll feed it grain. And so depending on what it eats. So we actually had an opportunity to work with Yardley Meats out of Beaver, and they were gracious enough to give us some brisket, but they were grass fed. So they're little itty bitty, the point was literally as flat as the flat was, and it's just kind of one of those things like, I don't know. It's so you have to kind of adjust. You have to know. It takes a lot of experience. You can't just go in there and cook a choice brisket, go hot and fast and cook it at 217 and go, cool, I screwed up. You didn't screw up. You just need to know like what that meat does. How does that react? And they're cooking it hot and fast. You're cooking it at your pellet smoker. I mean, there's so many elements, and I think it's hard because a lot of people just kind of bunch it. It's so black and white, and it's not. Wow.
Let's get on one. And a couple things you can do is just, it just comes with experience. It's reading a lot, getting to know your cooker, getting to know the meat that you have, playing with it. I just think that people see us cooking. So, for example, I'll cook a brisket, right? It turns out freaking phenomenal. These guys don't know it's an A9 brisket from Pensacola, Florida, that I took to 220 degrees, to get it to where it's at. So they go take their choice from Walmart and try and cook it the same way. It doesn't work out. So yeah. Trying to say is like when you do, my very first brisket was out of this park, amazing. My second, third, and fourth was the worst briskets I've ever cooked in my life. So yeah, and it's because I didn't understand that. I figured, well, I cooked this brisket the same way I'm going to cook this one. It doesn't work out. I mean, it takes a lot of experience, but at the same time, don't get down on yourself when you're trying to cook a brisket. All those people out there, because I might be cooking a Wagyu, I might be cooking this, and every animal is a different life, and you got to figure out how to cook that animal to make it what you want it to be.
Right. I have, for the last probably 5 or 6 years, I've cooked a lot of the Costco primes. I recently made the switch to the Snake River Farms. It's a completely different cook. I'm still practicing on how to hone in on a quality brisket. I seem to be undercooking them. I'm starting to push them to that 208, 209 temperature, but I'm still not quite getting the texture I'm working for. So practice is the biggest part. And when you're messing around with the Snake River Farms A9s out of Pensacola, Florida, it is a scary jump to go from your Costco, Sam Club's briskets into almost a $200 brisket and worried that you're going to mess it up. I don't know if you guys, either one of you two, have made that jump yet to a Snake River Farms brisket and we're nervous to do that, or are you guys still both cooking your local grocers briskets?
I personally, the one that I did last was the Snake River Farm Wagyu, and it ended up very good, but it was definitely different than the first one. I know that much.
What was the first one? Was it just a normal?
God, I don't even remember. I want to say I got it from a Smith's, probably a choice. Yeah, it was quite a while ago, and I was very disappointed in that one.
Brandon Williams just said is screwing up so often. I decided to make a journal for each meat. I cannot stress that enough, because how many of us sitting right here talking have made the best meat ever, and you're like, oh man, I need to do that again. You're like, oh crap, how did exactly did I do it?
Every weekend.
And you can go back and reference those steps all the time and get better, because hey, what's up, man?
I was thinking like how crazy it is, like what if going back to those of us who watch those barbecue Pitmasters episodes to get us fired up about barbecue, and they were using those Wagyu briskets. They would have to have shipped in, and lately, over the last couple of years, you can get those at the grocery store, and that's kind of speaking to how big barbecue is coming. At least in our area, you can get those at the grocery store.
Yeah, and it's awesome. Like you can go to Macy's in Lehigh and get close right now. Snake River Farms Black. At a pretty decent price. So it's cool. It's more accessible now. And it's funny because I know a lot of people get really freaked out about an A9 or a Wagyu. In my opinion, it's harder to cook those meats from Smith's, it's harder. It's a lot harder for me. It's more expensive for sure, but it's an easier cook. It always ends up, it's more forgiving. All that marbling is going to be a lot more forgiving for you if you cook your range is much wider.
And I've never cooked one. I grab them, whatever I can get at a decent price at Costco. That's my brisket.
And dude, I can't remember. I can remember my first time cooking a Snake River Farms Gold. I was super nervous. It wasn't even on my dime. My buddy bought it and was like, "Here, can you cook this for me?" And for this dinner party, it was intimidating for sure.
So
I only had like 6 briskets in at that time. So
is it worth it to make the jump from say a choice to a prime on like any cut of meat?
Yes, all day when it comes to barbecue. Yes,
I would say that yes, but don't discount choices, because you can find choices that look like. So how the USDA goes through and inspects their meat is they'll look at the ribeye meat, look at that ribeye cut, and they'll judge the marbling on that, and that's the whole entire cow. Okay, so they assume if that ribeye has good marbling, then it's a prime. The whole meat is a prime, or it is what it is. So you can find some really good marbled choice. I've seen them before. It's all about the marbling. It's the same, it's probably a cow that sat next to the same cow that's prime. It's just how it is. So yes, it is, but at the same time, don't discount choices. I think it's just all about selection. If you can get, in there and start, if you have that kind of patience, that I'll go to Walmart and I'll fiddle through some stuff, but man, I'm not going to go like some people I know to 40 stores a day, and they're like, I just found this, it's like, all right, cool. You would have killed it in 1949 or 1849 in, San Francisco, but I'm not that guy, So it's like, you can find the choice. Yes, it is worth it. And because two things. One, it's more forgiving, and it's just a better piece of meat, it's just a better piece.
Well, kind of touch on Kelly Fisher's comment right here. Some people like leaner cuts of meat. Yes, that is definitely true. But I've noticed with people that even enjoy leaner cuts of meat, if you cook, like example, we're on brisket. If you cook a brisket properly, you're going to render a lot of that fat out, and they won't even see any fat, especially if you trim it right. Trimming it right is huge to start off on a brisket. If you don't trim it correctly, you're not going to get a good result. So I don't know how you feel about that.
At Angus Beef real quick. It's a different concept, but it's the same thing. Like they're not primes, they're not choices. It's a whole different category. So it's just about selecting the right one. If you just took out the USDA prime choice and select option, just look through some friggin' meat, you'd find some real good stuff. If some people don't know what marbling is, So it's marbling is the fat within the meat, you know. So if you look at a piece of meat and it's just straight red on that flat, that's not a lot. You just look for the little white marbles and little white things. Also, you can grab it and lift it up, and if it flops down, that means it's got a lot of marbling in it. If it doesn't, it's just kind of straight, it means it's just straight up meat. Another way you can tell too.
How many times have you guys sat there in the pile of briskets at Costco and looking for that floppy one? Just wondering what people are thinking you're doing.
Right. I'll actually tell the butcher to bring out a case if I'm not finding what I'm looking for. And it's I don't ever look at the cost. If I'm going to go spend the money on a brisket, I know I'm going to be anywhere between that $50 and $70 range at Costco. I'm just looking for the bend. I'm looking for the best quality straight strands of fat that it's going to give me the best result. So I recommend everybody doing that. You know, if you're going to shell out that kind of money, don't even look at the price, because you're just going to be limiting yourself if you start looking at the price. So just like Rob said, go in there and look for the bounce, look for the bend.
Yeah.
Yeah. If you're going brisket, you're going all in. You're just finding the best one.
Yeah.
Exactly. You've already made the decision.
Yeah.
You know, but there's a lot of things if you can nail those choices, you know, that's I think that's harder. Someone comes to me and gives me a good choice brisket, you know, I look to them more respectfully than I do someone who's cooking a great Wagyu. You know, I think it's just harder to do and harder to execute, and it's really cool when someone can do that.
Well, sometimes those choice briskets will turn into a prime just with the aging process. You'll just see, like, literally, you'll just see kind of a change in it as well too. So it just all depends on what you're looking for and how to select it. Meat selection is huge. So for you backyard guys, learn how to go and select a choice of a cut of meat. There are so many YouTube videos available out there that will break it down. Malcolm Reed, obviously, How to Barbecue Right, is always a good person to go look at. He has a podcast that talks about that, and he does a really good job at explaining it, far better than me. Rusty does a pretty good job explaining stuff, but
that's one that I've watched. Malcolm Reed stuff helped me so much, you know, with how to cook different things. His YouTube videos are awesome.
You know, and that to touch on that a little bit, like I think there's certain just cooks that people relate with. You know, just I've cooked certain things from certain people and it just doesn't turn out right. You know, it's just not my same palate. So Malcolm Reed and me are like kindred spirits. Everything I've ever touched and cooked of his has been the best thing I've ever eaten. And there's others out there where I'll emulate their cooks and it's just not the same. I don't like it, you know. So it's like Caitlin, actually, every single recipe I've ever tried of hers has been out of this world. So everything she posts, I'm like, that's going to be good, you know? Right. And there's certain people I like look up to and really emulate, like Caitlin and Malcolm and Kent Rollins, who's my freaking hero. You know, there's certain people. So if you're, that's a good point. Like if you're watching someone and you're cooking and you're eating it, like, oh, this isn't good. Don't think you suck. It might just be someone that you just don't jive with, and you know, it's just how it is. We all have different taste buds. They might think it's great, and then you don't. It's just how what's her name? Enid Gardner, the Barefoot Contessa. Everything I make of hers is terrible. I don't know why. And Emeril Lagasse, and I'm a huge fan. My favorite kind of thing to cook at home is Cajun Creole, and I just can't jive with this stuff, man. It's just how it is. So I use a lot of Justin Wilson's old school recipes, and it works out really well for me. So it's when you're on YouTube and watching, you cook a lot and figure out who fits your style. That's what I've noticed.
Hey, John, I agree with the original art of a brisket was a cheap cut of meat that would feed your family. That is actually facts. When it comes to feeding your family, if your family enjoys it, it's automatic win, straight up. You're not trying to impress anybody. You're just making sure you feed your family. And if they like it, that's a win for sure. Now, if your wife comes to you, and I've had a half of my wife's like, yeah, that's not a win for me. Like, she doesn't like my smoked burgers, but she'll take a smash burger any day. So it's just a matter of learning who you're feeding and making sure that you're pleasing them and yourself as well.
So what's your guys' process, Matt? Like what do you do? Are you kind of the guy that just kind of wings it all? Are you really into recipes right now? What's your process at this point? Like how do you see yourself getting to point A to B?
I'm kind of more of a winger. I've winged most things, but I have, you know, my base, like Rob was saying, there's, you know, you start with your salt and your pepper and your onion powders and garlic salts and stuff. But sometimes I just cut out the garlic salt and use, you know, say I was using the Bold and Beefy from the Blues Brothers recently, and that seems to be pretty good on any kind of beef that I've been using. But I mostly kind of wing it, and I've not really nailed down the taste differences of the different pellets yet. I mean, maybe I'm not as refined as the barbecue judge in you guys or whatever, but I haven't seen a huge difference in some of them. I mean, some of them might be more mellow, but maybe the mesquite you can tell kind of, but some of the other ones I don't see the huge difference.
That's actually pretty common. A lot of people won't taste the difference. When you're cooking with your apples and cherries and stuff like that, you're on the lower spectrum of the smoke. When you get into your oaks and hickories and stuff like that, you're on the higher end of a heavier smoke, but most people can't taste the difference in between wood. Cherry, I think, is the only one that I usually cook to use for color. I don't know about Rusty, but when it comes to the smoke flavor, I can't really pick it up. I'm not that great at it, and I eat a lot of barbecue. I can smell it more than I can taste it.
I can't at all. I always tell people, like, what kind of wood do you use in the thing? I'm like, I've tried all sorts of stuff. I just go with hickory now, and I mix in Jack Daniel's pellets to give it a little charcoal flavor. And I noticed that's the only time I've really noticed a smoke flavor coming out of it. That's just me, though. I just don't. I pellet grills on my Yoder. I just don't notice any real difference. It's a smoke flavor, it's really good,
right?
But I can't. If you gave me a rib with cherry and then rib with apple, I'm not going to be able to tell you the difference.
But do you think it has a color change? I feel like it has a color change.
Cherry, yeah, cherry does. Pecan's really good, like John said. I like pecan. That's what I use. Ever since I've used that, it's been a better smoke. Now, it's funny because if I do a pecan on a barrel, I'll notice right away what's cherry, what's not. I can tell those days because the profiles I have are so dialed in, so the tastes are different when I bite into those. But on the Yoder, I don't really cook per like a certain set, so it's hard for me to really get judgment on that because I'm always cooking something different. So if I was just to cook one rib on the Yoder 100 times and use different things, I might be able to tell. Man, I don't sweat it, dude. I just go for the tree and I go for a little bit of the Jack, and I don't think it's that big of a deal. It's honestly different somewhere else. Like for example, I use white oak at the restaurant, and when I come home, I'll just do hickory. And the hickory is so much different profile. I can definitely taste the difference, but just not on my pellet yet.
I want cherry. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Anthony.
No. I just buy the big bag at Costco for at home cooking. But at competitions, I'll make sure I just use, like he said, the Jack Daniels and some cherry and a little bit of apple. But normally at home, if I got a pellet, I'm cooking it. It doesn't really matter, honestly, because I can't really taste the difference. But go ahead, Rob. Go ahead and key in on this.
I got cherry in. I want cherry in everything because that adds color for me. Like it makes that bright red. And then when we're going back to talking about brisket, I feel like you get that smoke ring because bark's not as important. But in my mind, if you're in a competition, you want a killer looking smoke ring. And that's coming from the cherry a lot, I think. But I've used the Jack Daniel's pellets, the charcoal pellets, the lumberjack, char hickory, and the char cherry from Camp Chef are all my go-tos. Like I got to have that charcoal kind of taste coming through. But cherry will be there as well.
Yeah, I like success with color and cherry for sure.
But for the smoke ring, let's touch a little bit about that. Competition, they're not supposed to judge you on the smoke ring, but having one actually helps just with presentation. I feel like it makes it look better. But to get a deep smoke ring, I've noticed more salt you use, deeper that smoke goes. It's the whole the biggest chemical breakdown. I looked at it, I read it, I got confused. So Rusty might know a little bit more about how the smoke ring gets there, but I know salt is a huge factor into being able to get that smoke ring to develop.
Yeah, I mean, smoke ring, I just know that I got enough smoke on it. That's all I really tell. I mean, even for competitions, I don't really try for it just because the way that we smoke, it just happens, like I'm not looking for a smoke ring on my chicken, obviously. I'm looking for one. But when I'm doing competition, it's more important for sure. But it's the penetration of smoke. It can be faked very easily, so that's why they don't allow it in KCBS. because you can put a chemical on it that looks like smoke ring. So, but yeah, a different kind of wood. It's just, I don't think it's the wood that will help more. There's a wing, and the reason why salt might help is because what salt does will penetrate. If you hold it on to, long enough, it'll penetrate your meat just like the smallest amount. So, also, however much you spritz it, so the cold will attach more smoke to it, and that'll increase your. A lot of reason people spritz is for that reason, because you cool your meat and the smoke reattaches itself. So as much meat you can get on that until your rub sets, the better your smoke ring is going to be. So when your smoke sets, you're no longer going to get any of that. So that's why people wrap at that time. So I don't know. For me, smoke ring, I just know that that's how I know if I did enough, if I did enough wood or too much, and so that's how I do it.
Brandon, you are 100%. I don't know how many times I went to people's houses and show up with like some pulled pork or brisket. And they're like, it's still red. Like, no, it's cooked all the way through. Because for one, I used a probe. Two, it's called the smoke ring, and most people don't know what that is. So Rob and Matt, you guys are both out there cooking. What, I guess, fails and wins have you came across? Like let's talk about your fails. Is there any questions that you have for us that might help you get to the next level on something that you've been trying to cook and you haven't been able to master?
Go ahead, Rob.
No, I mean, I feel like I cook what I want and it's successful. Like it's really cool. I go back to these, online communities, Facebook and whatever else. I have so many friends from that I can reach out to Caitlin or whoever else. How do you do this? What's the process? And I've cooked long enough that I can take what they say and make it my own. It's been a while since I had a fail. I don't know we had talked about failing on a couple briskets. Those were two big fails, 8 or 10 years ago, where I had brisket jerky. And I don't know, there's kind of a funny thing at our house. I have 5 kids, and my wife worked nights for a lot of years, so I had to cook. If we were going to eat, I had to cook. And so I'll cook something and try to make it awesome, and I'll cook it like twice a week for a couple weeks, and then once I master it, the kids love it, and then they bring up, Dad, you don't make this anymore, because once I master it, I move on to something else.
Is there anything that you are nervous to cook? Like, honestly, to this day, I haven't even jumped into it as lamb. I'm just nervous to cook lamb because, one, it's really delicate. I haven't been trained in the kitchen on how to properly handle lamb or trim it or any of that. So that's what I'm nervous on cooking.
I have a fear of one now that I think about it. Because it's my favorite thing to order if I go out to eat is prime rib. And I've never cooked a prime rib. I feel like I could do it. I've learned enough stuff about it, but I've never tackled a prime rib on my own.
Yeah, prime rib's a beast, man. They're so good though.
Oh, it is.
So good. You need to try it. It's like brisket for me was so intimidating, and I just avoided it for so long, and then I just did it. And same with prime rib. It was so scary. But then when you do it, you're just like, gosh.
I started off with the little one at the Smiths. It was like $60. I didn't go with the full packard, but I started off with the little one.
So Rob, what's something that you really just sucked at and threw up your hands and said, you know what? I just can't get this.
Oh.
To your specifications. I mean, not like,
I've sucked at, I've got it down now, but you go to the store, you're feeding 7 people at your house, and maybe there's a friend over. So I make a ton of food, 7, 8 people any given night. But trying to do the boneless chicken breasts on your smoker, it's easy to dry them out. So I don't know. I don't think I've sucked at anything. That's Brandon says I'm a show off.
You're the man.
Brandon says I'm a show off, but I can cook something that's decent every time.
Right.
So Matt, what about you? Like, what's something that you like struggle with, and you're just like, you know what? Either I'm going to put this on hold, or I'm just never going to do this again.
I think I'm with you guys saying the prime rib, because I don't know, it was never my favorite at the restaurants. Whenever we got it, maybe it was always cold by the time it got to me, and so it just never was our thing. So I think I was always a little bit afraid of that, and sometimes the price tag on that is ridiculous too. So it's not to want to screw that up would kind of hold me back on that, but maybe it's time. Plus, I think we just like ribeye steaks better, so I'd probably just hack that thing up and turn it into a bunch of giant steaks. So
you look at it and you're like, hold on, this could be steaks.
Yep.
I can't. Bone in ribeyes.
Yeah, I don't know if I can bring myself to do that. So, right. But as far as something that would be, we'd be scared to cook here, is probably fish, because it wouldn't get eaten. Nobody here at my house likes fish whatsoever. So that and the fear that the taste might stay in there, so.
Right. Yeah. Sometimes when you cook fish, like a salmon, if you put it in your pellet grill, it will hang on for at least 2 cooks, I've noticed.
Really?
I'm not allowed to cook fish in the house. It has to be an outdoor cook. There's only 2 of us here that'll eat fish.
Mine is kebabs. Found it funny enough. It's something that the meat's fine, the veggies are fine. I can just never get into a kebab and go, you know what, this is super, super good. And I just don't add it. I think it's just because I'm not adding the right stuff. And so I'll pick the meat off because the meat's always awesome. Or the onion char is great, but then I can never find the right balance of a good kebab,
Well, most people cook a kebab, they'll do meat and then tomato, onion, meat, whatever. That's actually the wrong way to cook it. You're going to overcook your veggies every single time if you do it that way. You should make a kebab of meat, and then you should make one of vegetables and cook them completely separate. And then
these kebab things, they're round. They freaking just spin.
Yeah.
Veggies and meat, that's a fail I can tell you about. People do bacon wrapped asparagus. Mm-hmm. Seen Caitlin do it. She makes it awesome. I tried it, but you wrap bacon around asparagus, and by the time the bacon's done, it's asparagus jerky underneath, right? So next time I do that, the plan is I'm going to get the bacon halfway cooked, then wrap it and see how it goes. But it's like that's a common thing you see people cook, especially when we get to summertime and asparagus is prevalent.
I have a thing. I don't like bacon wrap stuff. I love bacon, but like all these people bacon wrap and stuff, I'm like, that's gonna be gross. I don't know why. Give me bacon all day long. I make my own. I eat it every day for breakfast. It's my favorite food. But if I'm gonna wrap a burger in it, no. I'll put bacon on it. I'm not gonna wrap it. No.
I hope Caitlin's listening because her bangles, man. You can't knock those.
Well, what about ABTs? What about atomic buffalo turds? You ever done those?
I haven't. No.
Do you know what that is?
I don't. No. I've never.
School us, Rob.
So, atomic buffalo turd. Strange name. So, a jalapeno stuffed with cream cheese and a little smoky, those little tiny hot dogs. Wrap that with bacon and cook it.
I've done that.
Okay.
So,
sausage.
That's a bacon wrap thing that I love.
And see, I didn't know that's what it was called, but I've done that too. And thin bacon, like Caitlin says, is the way to go.
Oh yeah, you gotta get the cheap stuff. You gotta buy the cheap stuff when you're wrapping.
For example, let's talk about it for a second. Caitlin did those things like you mentioned, right? They looked absolutely amazing. And if I feel like I was going to bite into those, that I would just have the perfect bacon bite, and it would just be whatever I bit, and then the rest of the bacon stays on the, I'm not able to do that stuff. Maybe that's what it is, I bite into it, and all of a sudden the whole piece of bacon comes out. I'm like, great. What the hell did I even do that for? I'm going to put the friggin' bacon on top of stuff or on the side and eat it with it. That's what I can't get. I can't get those bacons. I can't get those kebabs. I need to try. I don't try a lot, but here's my thing. I don't try
bacon wrapped kebabs.
My whole right. I just try to. My whole thing now is just trying to do different meats and different styles. So I'm locked into more of, I can cook a cow's head. Let's do that over an open flame.
Yeah, it was amazing what you did with that.
Failing all the time. I literally fail constantly. I'm like, it was crappy. But those two things. I just don't get into bacon. Sorry. It's weird. I know.
It's all good, but kind of to touch back what you said, Rob, pre-cook that bacon, because when bacon's finished, even when it's done, it's still pliable, right? You can use some hot gloves and just wrap whatever you want in it. But half cooked bacon is definitely where it's at for sure.
Matt, what's your opinion on wrapped bacon? You good at it? You ever done it? Do you care about it?
I've done it a few times. I think it's good on like the drumsticks for the chicken. I've done that several times, and that always turned out good. I mean, it kind of got a little squirrely because I didn't use any toothpicks to hold it on there sometimes. But if I just had it on a cookie baking sheet or something, it works out fairly well.
Yeah.
Yeah. With when it, like the example with the brown sugar, what you said, Matt, the toothpicks. If you use brown sugar as a binder, I found that makes the bacon stick to stuff.
But I guess my question here, Matt, is you wrapped your wings with bacon. Is it your favorite?
That's my favorite way to do the drumsticks. Yeah, I think so. Keeps them from drying out, getting a little tough on the outside, and the kids like it too. So that's always a win-win. But coming back to your sugar comment, Anthony, so I have my lady, she is on a keto diet. So that would be kind of a deal breaker for her, which most barbecue is apparently. So I was going to ask you guys about that. If you guys had any ideas for that, if there's any alternatives for the sugar that you guys ever use, or
agave is kind of my go-to for sugar stuff, for the sweetness part of things. Rusty probably will be able to answer this a lot better. He was on a keto thing for a minute, and
if you're looking for stick, just use meat glue.
Use meat glue.
I don't look into it. I don't know what's in it. It might work though. I never, like I said, I did the keto thing, but I never wrap bacon because I don't wrap bacon. But just different things. I don't know. Monk fruit and gold sweetener. That's a good one. That's what Caitlin said. I use monk fruit in everything when we are on keto, so that would work. Monk fruit, great. But yeah, I don't know. I don't wrap bacon. I don't know why. I just have my little things. It is what it is.
Right.
I don't like when people cheers the phone on Instagram stories. They throw their beer and hit their phone with it. I hate it. It's just it's the same thing. It's just it's because I can't do it. That's why.
You guys have any questions for us? I emailed you guys earlier and had you guys think of some ideas or some questions for us. Go ahead and shoot questions at us. We're always asking the questions, so I'm willing to take some questions on.
What's your go-to? Oh, go ahead, Rob.
No, you beat me. Go for it.
Oh, what's your go-to store-bought seasonings, rubs?
Store-bought?
Yeah.
Honestly, you can't go over anything wrong with the McCormick's line. I love their steak seasoning, and then also they have this pork rub. It's an apple pork rub. I actually still use it to this day in my competition stuff. So that McCormick line of any of their grill stuff is actually really good. Then obviously you ask store bought, but then next level is definitely your local barbecue pit stops and stuff like that for your next level stuff. But so I recommend anything off the McCormick grill line.
Here's the thing. I know it's not keto, so no, it's not. I don't know what it is. Whatever. So the best chicken you're ever going to cook in your entire life is you take chicken thighs and you put some olive oil in it and toss in Spade L chicken ranch's chicken seasoning. It is the best. I just can't get away. It's the best way to do it. I'm very much a person I'm a salt and pepper guy. I get into a lot of rubs just because they're fun. But when I'm cooking at home, it's just salt, pepper with some whatever I need in it, depending on the ratio, maybe some seasoning salt. I just got into Worcestershire powder, just different things like that. I'm very basic. But when I come to like cooking chicken, I've tried 4 million different ways. And that Ranch's Spade L, there's nothing like it. Nothing. You'll never ever anything else.
There's a local one. I don't know if you guys have ever bumped into it, but it's called Grandpa Lynn's seasoning. It's more of a seasoned salt. You can get it at like Lee's Market, usually, I think. And that's my chicken go-to stuff.
Oh, that's
I don't know if you consider store-bought, but because you're only going to be able to find it here in Utah. But
Yeah, but try that. Get that spade ale. There's sometimes in the seasoning aisle, but I've also seen them by the meat department. Excuse me. But yeah,
Right.
it's so. Oh gosh, let me see if
even like the dry dressings are a good option too. You know, you can get ranches. They have the powdered ranch. That's a good way to go. You can't never really go wrong with like chicken, the powdered Italian dressing. That works. That's pretty backyard. That is very backyard and old school, but it works.
Yeah, go ahead.
I was just like, both of you guys are into competition, and thinking about jumping into competitions, like how many times did you guys visit a competition or check things out before you decided to jump in the game?
For me, I watched the BBQ Pitmasters. Always kick that around. You can hear the story a little bit more on the Rob Livingston R&R Barbecue podcast, but it's literally I seen a flyer getting into barbecue competition, so I took the class. About a month later, a competition came up and I went. It was my first time ever going to a competition. When I rolled in the parking lot, I had no idea what to do or what's going on. So I watched the TV show, said, "Hey, I could do that." Took a class, jumped in. That was just my process. So what about you, Rusty?
I never visited one. I do suggest doing it. I wish I would have. I just didn't know anyone was doing it locally. So I had driven by the very first Pitmasters episode ever. It was in Mesquite, Nevada, and I was driving from Vegas to Utah, and I saw it, and I was pulling over to get some food or go to the bathroom or something, and I drove by it. Couldn't drive in it, didn't get out, but just was kind of like, wow, these guys are cooking freaking barbecue. And it looks like competition. Like I got what it was. And I'm like, I want to do that one day. And that's just kind of where that's my only exposure to it. And then, 10 years, 12 years later, I was able to do it, but I didn't. And I highly suggest it because one of the reasons is that when you go to it, we jumped into it too. We did the backyard, but we just went and showed up. We had no idea what we're doing. So the process and stuff like that was a little challenging. We got a lot of information though. I went to, at that time I didn't take a class or anything like that, so I just started the backyard, which is a really good way to do it because it depends on your level of interest. If you're like, dude, I'm gonna be a barbecue competitor, then go pro. But if you're like, man, that'd be fun to try, go backyard because it's super simple. We make it very easy for you, and then you get a really good idea of what everything is. And a lot of people doing those understand it's your first time or close to it, so they're really cool about showing you the ropes, and then you have fun. Yeah. And there's not a lot of people, so it's not like super intimidating. But I suggest doing it personally. If it was me and I was considering it heavily, and not just a comp, if I was like, I really want to give this a fair shot, call up me, get a hold of any one of these guys doing comps right now and say, hey, can I come cook with you locally? And just run garbage and do whatever you need to do and just get an idea of what it's really, really like. Because it's a lot different than you think. It's a lot harder than I anticipated in different ways. And then it gives me kind of an idea of what I want to do. Taking a class, being KCBS certified is a really big one. It helps you understand what everyone's doing and what you need to be looking for. And start backyard if you're into it. But man, I don't know why no one does. It's just fun, man. Show up with your Traeger, show up with your ugly drum smoker, just freaking cook a rib and a chicken and just see how it goes.
Yeah, man. You don't need a lot of equipment to do it. You can have buy a Weber off Facebook Marketplace and be ready to compete, literally. So,
and a lot of people think they need these fancy ass smokers, and you just don't. I thought I did, and I don't. And a friend of mine comes to me, he's like, I want to get a smoker. And he's like, what's a cheap option? I go, Weber grill or Weber kettle. I would never told you that several years ago. I mean, no, you need a Jambo pit right off the kit. Cooking barbecue. Right. Hell no, man. You can cook great barbecue off of Weber and competition style. A lot of people are doing it. Out in California, I was actually super, super surprised. I was judging a pro event down in California and walking through, and every one of those fools had Weber kettles. They're smoking up. That's just what they do. So, it's cool to go to them. They're fun, man. And but respect. Here's something important. Respect the time, turn in time. So a lot of people want to come talk to you right when you're trying to get your chicken on and you're boxed up. So respect that.
Do not talk to us from 11 to 1:30. You're more than welcome to come and join, but once 11:30 comes, just step back with your camera and take pictures. Other than that, don't ask questions. But
I fear the turn-in time. The turn-in time is crazy fear for me because my wife will be like, "What time are we eating?" And I'll be cooking a pork butt or whatever. And yeah, probably 5. Oh, 7:30. It's still not done.
So let's touch on that, Rob. I like that. I like that direction. Matt, have you ever considered competition barbecue as far as backyard goes?
Not really. I mean, I know Anthony put out some feelers one time needing a helper, and I was close to pulling the trigger and getting with him, but I've never actually considered it yet. But like Rob was saying, the turn-in time, everything seems to roll a little late generally, as far as when you think it's going to be done, when it's actually done.
Yeah. Well,
that door's still open, Matt, by the way. Same with you, Rob. I know Rob, he's been there. He's done it. He's helped me.
Right.
Yeah,
you hit me up next time. I'm down.
But the turn-in time is interesting because when you get going, you practice a lot of that time. But the first thing we did was as a team, we did the whole sleepover. They came to my house, we trimmed and we injected. And the next morning we set down a time frame, and you hold the meat mostly. Chicken's the only one we were afraid to hold, but you really hold that. I mean, sometimes that brisket's sitting there for 4 hours, sometimes those ribs are sitting there for 2 hours, so you're done way before. It's just cutting. What about you, Robbie?
It's more about the get it done and hold instead of trying to make that mark.
Exactly, yeah. I hold. Mm-hmm. The Cambro's their best friend in competition.
You have to really, because a lot of it needs resting, depending on the meat. So, and plus, you're going to have cold food, man, medium food. That's just how it's going to be. So like Tuffy Stone said on, in his book, and he said on the podcast too, is you want to cook your food in a timeline and make sure that it's cold. Give it 15 minutes sitting there in the box and then eat it. And then what that tastes like is what the judge is going to taste. So you make your flavor profiles that way. So you're not really worried about getting hot. I mean, you're going to hear this a lot. People, nah, man, I need to get that right off the pit, right into my box. And that's cool. I'm sure that works because that's the profile that they want. But for me, it's like I'm going to run late. My ribs are going to be done 2 hours to 30 minutes before turn-in time, but they're always done before turn-in time. Always. Chicken's very the one where you're just like, come on, chicken. We can't be done early and we can't be done late. That's about it.
Yep. Exactly.
But what about you, Rob? What's something are you interested in backyard competitions? And if not, what was something that holds you back? This is just something I'm interested in, by the way.
No, I have interest. But you talk about the Cambro is your best friend. My Cambro is the cooler with 4 wraps of foil around it and some towels. Are you guys seeing like the backyard guys rolling up with their cooler and making use of their average Joe backyard stuff, or do you need to roll in with all the cool stuff?
So I used a cooler until last year. I used a cooler until last year.
A Cambro, and it's because it's an insulated product, right?
Mm-hmm.
And cooler holds heat because it's an insulated product. That's the end of the conversation.
Exactly.
It does.
So, I mean, in the end, it doesn't matter your tools you have. It's what you deliver, but it's the fear of, hey, I have all this just regular stuff. I don't have the cool stuff. I don't know. That's my thought.
Honestly, just with my experience, if you gave me one 22-inch Weber kettle and a cooler and meats, and obviously I'd bring my roast, but I would be confident that I could cook a full-blown KCBS competition with that one grill. It's like we said, it's about holding
KCBS backyard for sure.
I know KCBS, I can pull it off. You can pull it off. It's just all about the cooler. You got to be able to you're just gonna have to start at 10 p.m. the night before and hold and mess around. But I'm confident. I think I could do one. Because I lost a grill on the way before, so I have done a KCBS with one Weber. So you don't need the fancy equipment.
Well, there's a lost grill story that's probably interesting.
Yeah. No, it's just I was getting ready to load it up, and because I used to cook on nothing but Weber's, and I had two of them, and one of them the leg broke, so I was forced to cook with just one grill, and it was tight. I actually didn't do that great because I charred up my brisket and pork shoulder because you only have 22 inches of grill space, right? So the fire just kissed most of it around the edges, but I still good. I didn't finish last, I'll tell you that much. I think I top 10 that one still.
The reason why I couldn't is because the wood is different for each meat for me.
Yeah.
So in a dog, and I couldn't change it out. But
I just went with applewood. But
yeah. But I think we got Cambros because I was doing a catering stuff, and that's the only reason I have them. And they are very convenient for KCBS because you don't want to stack up your brisket on top of your ribs or vice versa. That's the only difference, in my opinion. So if you can find a way to avoid that, dude, it's just sitting pretty. We had a backyard guy, Chad, who's on our team, and his dad. He entered one of our backyard contests in American Fork Steel Days, and he comes up to me. He's like, "Man, my ribs are done," and it was like 3 hours before turn in. He's like, "What do I do?" I'm like, first of all, get a timeline and then stick to it. Second of all, wrap that bee up and burp it a little bit and put it in your freaking Cambro, or your cooler." That dude took first place ribs, so it is what it is. It's just like you don't need a lot. We came with my good one because I had a good one, and we came with a really small Traeger Renegade, and that's the way we got our first two comps in, and they were freaking perfect. You come in with a Traeger, you can do ribs and chicken. Man, it's so simple to do a backyard comp. It's unbelievable, and it's a thing with the Pitmasters Pitmasters TV show. Is that you see these guys in trailers, and all the people on TV have trailers, and you show up to a pro comp, everyone has trailers, Jambos, Outlaws, drum smokers with their freaking logo on it. They look like a damn parade. And you go, I need all that stuff. And you simply don't, at all. So, I mean, you look at Brennan and Luton, that guy's got a 10 by 10 beat up freaking easy up, and he's cooking on his Weber's, and the dude is fifth place in the KCBS last year. I mean, he just crushes, and he doesn't use anything fancy. Harry So is a great example of that. That guy shows up in a minivan, with a cooler, an igloo cooler, and freaking Weber's, and he crushes. It's just, you don't need it. It's an illusion.
Yeah, exactly. I've seen people pull up to competitions and they see all this fancy equipment and they leave. I've seen it happen before. There's no need to. If you can cook, you can cook straight up. It doesn't matter what you're using, what you're cooking on. But other than that, yeah. Matt, do you have any other questions for us, by the way?
What's the field like at these competitions? How large would you say the fields are generally?
For KCBS backyard.
Either or.
Let's talk backyard. That's what let's talk backyard. They're actually better than the pro competitions here in Utah. There's a lot more turnout.
Really?
It's about 10.
You mentioned top 10ing, so I was just wondering, where does top 10 stand? Is that in the upper, 10%, or is there, 100 people usually, or what would you say?
Currently in the pro circuit right now, top 10 today would probably be the lower 50. And that's why Rusty and I, we've had a lot of conversations with a lot of people. We really want to build you guys up as a backyard community to be able to get your toes wet, get out there and compete, and hopefully get into the next level so we can beat up on you a little bit.
No, the backyard is about 10 people. So the one in the field days, we had 3 weeks to plan it, and 22 people signed up. It was amazing. But normally when we do one, it's about 10 to 15 people, 10 to 11 on average right now. That's going to change. I've been working with the Utah Barbecue Association to start a league this year. And of course, Corona kind of put the damp on that for right now. But we'll be doing classes and stuff for backyard competitions, and then doing backyard competitions. And we're hoping to get it to about 20 to 30 people showing up every time. And man, they show up anywhere from with a freaking small Traeger all the way up to a stick burner, and it's kind of crazy. But yeah, the food is well, actually, I lied. The last one I went to, the food was really, really good, but a lot of it's kind of hit and miss. So the competition is just a bunch of people out there having fun, and it is really, really fun. If you forget that part, then you shouldn't be competing, because you just go up there, grill your meat, and have a good time, man. It's always super, super fun. But yeah, the competition isn't that stiff in the backyard, but there's some really good cooks in there too. But they move up, so they get out of your hair.
Yeah.
So does the prize money outweigh what you spend on meat?
So give you an example. No, absolutely. Give you an example of last competition. You get a brand new Traeger, a whole bunch of cool stuff. I mean, we won a Traeger and we sold it for $1,200, you know? So yeah, it can be for sure.
On the backyard side, yes. Pro side, no.
Yeah. Backyard, you definitely make up for lost time, because your ribs are what, $10? You buy 2 of them, that's $20. You buy chicken thighs, it's $15. You're in at $25 plus
$50 entry fee.
$50. You're into less than $100, and you're going to win a lot more than that. So backyard money is better for sure. And it's cool because we're going to do a lot of stuff with ThermoWorks, and the whole idea is that this league we're going to try to build you up. So you win a Traeger, you win a Thermopin, you win a smoke, you win all these things. So if you keep on winning, you're literally going to have all the equipment you need to step into the pros. So, or continue on the backyard cooks and just have a good time, you know? And so they're super fun. People showing up, they just have a good time.
Is there on backyard, are the standards cooking to more what tastes good for your average family cookout, or are they going nuts with the chicken thighs and doing the scraping off of the fat and all this other craziness?
Well, that's the thing with judging in a backyard competition. We understand presentation is definitely not the biggest point on it. We are mostly looking for doneness, and then obviously the flavor. So when it comes into the backyard, I'm saying don't practice appearance, but don't concentrate on appearance and all that stuff. Make sure you just nail that temp and make sure you have a good flavor profile, and you do great in the backyards.
Jesse Johnson's comps, he has KCBS judges as much as he can. Which I think at first I thought was meh, you know, and then we had one in American Fork, and it was just a bunch of average people, you know. So it's 2 different flavor profiles. I prefer the KCBS because they know what they're looking for, but they preface. Jesse tells them, "Hey man, this is just a backyard comp, dude. You know, like, we're not here to ridicule these people. We're here to just give them a fair shot. You know, don't be hard on them. Try your best to be, you know, put yourself in their shoes. Some of this is our very first comp. Consider that." So I like that style better. I like the people who know what they're tasting. So at least the backyard guys have something to build up to, but at the same time, they know not to be jerks about it, you know, like they would in a KCBS. They're more critical, but in a backyard, they're very much like, you know, you know, but that's the standard. I think going forward will be the KCBS, or at least a certified judge, hopefully as many as we can get. And then just being cool about it, you know?
Right. Well, that should be it, unless you guys have anything else for us. If you have any questions that you were begging to ask.
I had one for Rusty.
Hit me.
Right.
Outside of contests, being in the restaurant world, how do you run a restaurant with barbecue and feel like you can leave? Because there's so much work that goes into making it right. And like in a restaurant, you're going to at some point have to go home and turn that over to maybe a high school kid. What goes through that?
Well, I always say that I'm more in the barbecue holding business than I'm in the barbecue cooking business. So you hold the meat. That's the process. I get there in the morning, I cook the meat, and I teach them how to hold it and to cut it properly. And that's simple, you know. So the high school guy, I'm like, okay, we're going to cut this brisket like this, and then we're going to saran wrap it like this and put it back. So it's not hard. Eventually you will train someone under you, but that process will be, so for example, if it was you, Rob, we would work together for a long, long time. And I would literally be with you day in, day out until I know. And then you would take my role over as the guy coming in the morning and cooking for the most part. So mostly you're teaching those guys how to wrap and saran wrap, which is harder than you think. And, you know, teaching them that and keep being consistent. But again, you're more in the holding barbecue business than you are the actual cooking of it. Because you can cook the best brisket of your whole life and put it on a steam table without saran wrap, and it dries out and it's garbage in 20 minutes. You know?
I didn't know you left the restaurant, Rusty. I thought you were currently there, just with the background.
Oh, here?
No, every time I call Rusty, he's, where you at? I'm at the restaurant.
We're not.
So.
We're not open on Sundays. Like, you know, I got to watch football. So
right, you got to close.
Oh yeah, remember Sundays. Sports were awesome.
They were. I love those things. Those were amazing. But yeah, man, it's you can leave. But it, you know, of the restaurant, there's two kinds of people: people who want to build everyone up and go, and people who just want to be there 24/7. You know, and you have the opportunity to be both. It's just telling your people, if you hire the right people who give a crap, and you can find that they have a little bit of passion for what you're doing, then it's easier to turn over to them, because at one point you're like, you know, I can teach you this. At first you're like, okay, cook the brisket to 204, and then you're not doing that. And they're like, well, why are you cooking at 204? Well, because I'm using a probe tender method. I'm not cooking to a certain degree, and I'm feeling it. I'm picking it up, and that's the stuff you got to teach them. And when they feel good about that stuff, you'll know, and then you'll feel really comfortable leaving them at that point. But it does take a lot of work to get them to that point. I'm not to that point with some people yet, so I'm cooking still, but I am that point where that I'm teaching them to hold it very properly and hold it well.
All right, let's end on that note, by the way. But Rusty, go ahead and give this question answer.
Bandera barbecue and American fork.
Perfect.
I just had come in to do some advisory work and pitmaster work. So, yep.
All righty. Well, that will do it. Thanks for joining us, guys. If you don't already know, if you're watching this, you can follow us at the pitmasterspodcast.com to catch up on all the podcasts. YouTube will drop all these links for the lives and the podcast. And if you have anything else to put in there, go ahead and throw it. I know, Rob, you're very active on social media. That probably can catch you on Instagram or Facebook. And then Matt, I don't know if you have an open thread to be able to have people contact you or not. So
nah.
Yeah.
But you find me on Wasatch Back Barbecue, or I think there's a couple others, but that's usually the one I go to.
Everyone message Matt right now and just say he just got stupid lucky at poker the other week, and that's all you need to do. I want you to
at least that's what I told you guys.
All right. And hey, Rob,
I'm on the same. Just look me up on Facebook or Instagram. It's just Rob Ashby, you know, generic. Find my beautiful face. You'll see me.
Yeah.
Awesome, man. Thanks, guys, for hanging out with us.
Thank you. Thanks, guys. Let's see.